What would be a actionable plan for a diasporan to purchase a land here in Ghana?
Well, the first thing is you need to engage the services of an escrow company. So Ewells Realty, we're the only company in Ghana that offers the escrow services, right? So what that means is that your fund, so let's say we're buying a plot of land for 10,000 cedis, okay? So the 10,000 cedis is not going to the seller immediately.
Where is it going
It's
to?
going into the escrow account. That is overseen by the lawyer, all right? It's a custodian account, a third-party account. So that's where the 10,000 cedis is. Do you know over 90% of court cases are land-related? 70%.
In Ghana here?
In Ghana. That's crazy. If a developer is just pushing for you to pay without any documentation, no sales and purchase agreement, no sort of reservation form, I mean, there's no documentation at all, I mean, that should be a red flag. Whenever there's unnecessary pressure is a red flag. You know, they should be able to provide you with all the documentation you need to do your search. If somebody gives you a title certificate and you take that title certificate and you run the search with the site plan and lands commission, it very well may come up in that person's name. But that's not what you do. You actually have to get a surveyor, go to the land, let the surveyor pick the points, get the coordinates, create a site plan, and then run a search based on that new site plan. And that will give you the information for the validity of the owner. People don't do that because you don't want to pay the surveyor, you don't want to pay the, to go through the lands commission process, and you don't want to wait 2-3 weeks for the process, right? Don't run from something to come to Ghana. You're running away from racism. You're running away from the new government. You're running away from this. You're running away from that. Don't do that. Come here with a purpose. What is your purpose? And be intentional about it. What are you coming here to do? If you're running away from something, you always be running away.
Interesting, yeah.
Hello guys, and welcome back again to another amazing episode. And as you guys already know, this is the Diaspora Transition episode where we have dialogue with diasporans who have decided to relocate either from US, UK, other Caribbean countries, and currently living here on the continent, Ghana. And today we do have here someone very special. I've had so many emails of people getting duped, right? They try to buy lands and then either they don't get their indenture or they get the indenture but the mitigation becomes a problem. And they don't sometimes do proper due diligence. Today we do have here an expert who will speak to us on this matter, on this affair. So diasporans who are considering buying property here in Ghana wouldn't go through this scam that has been happening. So we have someone special. She goes by the name Hanna, and I'm so happy to have her on the show. It's been a long time coming. I've been trying to get her for a very long time. Finally, she's here. So without further ado, Hanna, welcome on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. You've been trying to get me for long. I've been trying to get on for long, okay?
I know.
Thanks for having me.
Likewise. I'm happy to have you here.
People are watching you for the first time. They might not know who you are. Please briefly introduce yourself to the people watching you for the first time.
Great. So I'm Hanna Tiase. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a pastor as well.
I see.
And I am currently the founder of Ewells Realty Consultancy, which is really our brokerage. And we we look at ourselves as a gateway to real estate investment. So anybody overseas or another African country or US, UK, and you want to purchase real estate, what do? You come to Ewells. We are your gateway to safeguarding your real estate investments in
I like
Ghana.
that.
Yeah.
Why is that so very important to safeguard someone's investment?
Well, real estate is probably one of the largest investments anybody would ever make, right? And so if you're going to inject a large amount of capital into any sort of investment, you want to make sure that all the systems and structures are in place, and especially where the regulatory framework may not be in place, you still want to make sure the system and processes are in place so that people feel comfortable, and people know that once they invest, they'll definitely get a return because that's why we're investing, right?
I like that. You guys have been in business for over 10 years, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want us to deep dive into the real estate, but before we do that, let's just go back to your story, your personal story. Where did you grow up? And how do you find yourself in Ghana?
Okay, so I'm Ghanaian, right? So I was born in Ghana.
Yeah.
I was here for 40 days and then went to Ethiopia. So that's where my parents were living. So
Okay.
they were in Ethiopia for like 33 years. So my parents were in Ethiopia. So I lived in Ethiopia and then I went to school in Kenya. And then from there went to the UK. I was in Oxford for a couple of years and then the US. And
Oxford
then,
University.
no, I did my A levels. So I
Okay,
was
okay.
at Witchwood School, which is actually down the street from Oxford University.
I
Yes,
see.
yes.
I
So then
see.
went to the States, and now I'm back to my home country.
Interesting. But how many years have you been back?
11 and a
11
half.
years.
Yeah.
How
11
did
and a
real
half.
estate started for you?
Do you know how I started real estate?
No.
From reading a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Interesting.
By Robert Kiyosaki. So when I was reading it, and at that time I was working in the corporate environment, I was in the banking sector. And as I began reading that book, I was like, wow, I need to get into real estate. So at that point, I decided I was going to learn as much as possible about real estate. So for 1 year, every single week, I went to every real estate seminar, real estate workshop to learn as much as possible, And I did that for 1 year. And then I ended up getting a real estate mentor, and then worked with that mentor, and then ended up working at LendingTree.com in the States, and then took off from there.
And you said you acquired your first property when you were 24 years?
I was 23.
23 years.
Yes. So, that was from reading the book, and I didn't have the buying power at that time. I'm 23. I'm just, working and, trying to make things happen. And so I spoke to my brother about it, and I was like, listen, I ain't got it all. You ain't got it all. Let's come together. And then that's how we bought our first property.
That's a unique mindset because in this hemisphere, I'm not sure how often people go into business with their family members. But you seem to have a unique mindset, even at that early 23 years old, considering buying a property. Who instilled that into you? Apart from that book you came across, but there must be some kind of, you think differently.
Yeah, so, I loved reading from a very young age. I was always reading. So I think I was reading a lot of books, and I loved watching the Susie Orman show, which is like a financial literacy show. I used to also watch Dave Ramsey and, different financial shows. So I think it all started from there. And then, you watch it, you listen, and then you implement it by starting to invest in stocks and that sort of thing. Yeah.
When you relocated to Ghana 11 years ago,
Yeah.
how was the landscape like?
Crazy.
Can you paint a picture for us?
I had never lived here before, right? And I hadn't been to Ghana at that time, in like 15, 20 years, right? So I wasn't very familiar with the culture. Don't forget, I grew up in Ethiopia. I was there for 17 years. So I learned the language, Amharic. I was, enjoying Ethiopian dishes and that sort of thing. So now I have to come back to my country, learn the language, learn the culture, and kind of, get assimilated into things. And so when I first came, it was a culture shock, And so, and then coming into the real estate sector is totally different to what I had experienced in the States. So it was chaotic.
How was it like then with the real estate market? Because now it's still worse. I mean, it's not. It's treacherous. Like it's a terrain that you need to understand very well, right? In order to be able to succeed and thrive.
Yeah.
Right. And now I think it's not even that perfect. I can't imagine 10 years ago.
Yeah. So I didn't just come to Ghana and then just jump into a business, right? And that's what I always tell people. First of all, you need to be traveling back and forth for a while. I mean, I did the big leap of faith. I did the big jump. It's not for everybody, right? But you should be coming and going. And then don't just come and start a business. What I did is I worked for different real estate companies. So when you came here, I did.
Okay.
When I came, I worked for a mortgage company, and then from there I worked for a real estate developer. So why did I do that? Because I needed to understand the terrain. I knew that the real estate market here was different. And so you work with an established company where they can provide you with the training you need, the resources, and the tools to empower you. And then after that, you can start your own business. Avoid a lot of the mistakes and pitfalls by working with experienced individuals in that company.
Okay, was it a local company that you were working with?
I worked with, when I first came, I was with Ghana Home Loans.
Okay.
Which is now First National Bank.
I see.
Yeah. So I studied the mortgage industry. And then from there, I worked with different real estate developers. Yeah.
How was it like when you were working with this developer? Was it easy working with them? What did you really learn that have added a lot to who you are now and the brand that you've been able to build, the brokerage business?
Yeah, so because I worked with Ghana Home Loans, I understood the mortgage industry. So now when people ask about financing, which is the biggest thing people always want to know, I'm able to provide them with that information. Working with the real estate developers, I worked with established private companies so that I could have that one-on-one sort of partnership with leadership, so that way they were able to teach me about how things work here in Ghana. So I learned a lot about the land title process. I learned about, construction, development, and even marketing and sales. Yeah.
Interesting. There's interesting, when you speak about real estate in Ghana, a lot of people tend to have a very skeptical feeling about it, trying to buy land or even houses. Let's speak about the land the most. I've had so many diasporans email me. They've been duped.
Yeah.
They paid money to another diasporan who relocated here, and now they don't have their indenture. They don't have this. Why does this keep happening? And what do you think we should do differently, or they should do differently?
Well, all these emails you're getting from people who've been duped. We have people coming into our office telling us they've been duped. They've tried to buy land 3-4 times, right? So my question to you is, what process did you follow? See, that's the question you need to respond to these people in the email. What was your buying process? Because a lot of people don't understand the buying process in Ghana.
Can we speak on that?
Yes. So, in fact, we host the first-time home buyers in Ghana seminar every year, right? This year we're doing it December 21st. Why do we do that? So we can teach people the home buying process in Ghana. You see, once you understand the process, then you can identify the red flags. And then you can avoid becoming victims of real estate fraud. So if you don't understand the process, you're just going to go with whatever. And so I think that's the biggest mistake that people make. In the States, in the UK, there are processes. You go through a title company. You go through a law firm. But when you come to Ghana to buy land, why do you avoid using our escrow service? You avoid using our lawyers. You avoid using an office. You rather just exchange funds with the seller. Like, who does that?
You made mention that people, diaspora, are buying land like they are buying tomatoes at the market.
Yes, and that's it, because you're not following the right due diligence process. You don't do your due diligence for buying tomatoes, right?
Lay
you just
out.
Look at it.
What is the due diligence? What would be a actionable plan for a diasporan to purchase a land here in Ghana?
Well, the first thing is you need to engage the services of an escrow company. So Ewells Realty, we're the only company in Ghana that offers the escrow services, right? So what that means is that your funds, so let's say we're buying a plot of land for 10,000 cedis, okay? So the 10,000 cedis is not going to the seller immediately.
Where is it going
It's going into the escrow account. That is overseen by the lawyer, all right? It's a custodian account, a third-party account. So that's where the 10,000 cedis is. The seller is notified that the funds are here, but we want to go ahead and do the due diligence first. So the escrow agent, the lawyer, will begin to conduct the due diligence, and they will conduct it in 8 different places. What most people know is, let me just run a search at Lands Commission. Oh, it's come back as the owner's name. I'm good to go. You haven't checked the High Court for litigation. You haven't checked property taxes to make sure there are no back taxes. There are so many other places that you need to check, and I'll go into all that on First-Time Home Buyer Seminar, right? But you need to check all these places first. Once the lawyer checks and then he gives the green light, Then funds are sent to the seller. The sales and purchase agreement is signed, and then the lawyer continues to register your land at Lands Commission.
So the lawyer
etc.
does that for you?
Yes. So we are here the pre-process, during the process, and post-process. People don't do that. People usually just pay the seller directly, maybe a deposit. They'll give the seller maybe 10 to 50%, right? And then they do their due diligence and they find out there's a problem with the land. And guess what happens?
They lose their percentage.
They lose their money.
Interesting.
Yes,
So-
people need to follow the right process. But you know
So-
why people avoid the escrow
No.
service? They don't want to pay that small upfront fee.
For the lawyer?
Exactly.
But
Everybody
they're willing
tries.
to invest $100,000 into the property, but they can't pay what? How much? How much is the lawyer fees? Just
It depends. It may be like, depending on the land, it could be anywhere from 1% to 3%. And I would rather spend that small upfront fee
To safeguard
than
your money.
To spend years in court, and to spend money in court. Do you know over 90% of court cases are land related? 70%
in Ghana here?
in Ghana. That's crazy. Because people don't follow the right process, and then you want to complain that you've had funds that have been lost.
This situation is very common.
It is.
It's very common, and you've built a system
Right.
within your company
Yeah.
that is almost it's a what would be the right word for it? It's almost impossible for someone to lose
It's
their money.
safeguarding your
investment.
Look, where there is investment, there's risk. And the key is to mitigate, to minimize that risk as much as possible. And yes, there are different complaints that come in real estate. And, rather than complaining about it, at least we're doing something about it, right? So that's one of the processes we've put in place. Now, I know the other complaint comes from the end of developers, construction delays, poor quality, and that sort of thing. We can't control that. We can't control developer conduct or construction delays and that sort of thing. And
Interesting.
we have a disclaimer that we put out there. We can't control that. What we do is the due diligence piece. Does the developer own the land? Does the developer, they have to write a statement on how they're going to finance the project. We do our due diligence. We have a developer's checklist. And that's the most we can do as real estate brokers.
Because look, for me as a YouTuber or a journalist, I get a lot of emails, and it happened. I think you also are aware of one of the developers that I'm sure maybe you also helped
I'm
promote.
sure.
Yeah. If you don't mind speaking about it, and you might have done all the due diligence. Someone would ask, what went wrong in your own opinion? As much as you can share.
Yeah, I think it could be a combination of things. First of all, the state of the economy, right? Because when the project started was 2 years ago, 2022, 2.5 years ago. And at that time, the exchange rate was $1 to $8. Today, it's $1 to 17. So building
Inflation.
materials, inflation, the price has gone up. So that's affecting developers across the board in terms of the price. And I also think that the construction delay, there's been a bit of construction delay. I think they are handing over in phase 2 now. So phase 1 is completed, they're handing over in phase 2, and they're ongoing in phase 3. So I do think that because of the construction delay, it did cause anxiety and panic with clients. And so people then start withdrawing from the project.
So it's actually a natural phenomenon that can occur in case of inflation for developers to delay.
Yes.
The delivery?
Inflation is part of it. And, don't forget, a lot of developers import a lot of the building supply. And so there could also be a delay on that end as well.
I've seen developers selling properties over $200,000. Isn't that ridiculous for the Ghana market? No, be honest. What do you think?
Well, I think, what is reasonable is based on perspective. Like what's reasonable for me could be unreasonable for you, right? So I think it's not so much the price, but it's the value for your money, right? So if I'm looking at a property that's sitting on 3 acres and it's a big house, it's spacious, I got a lake, and you tell me it's worth $3 million, that's value for money. But if you are building a house on half a plot, small rooms, and you know the quality of material is not that good, the finishings are not good, and then you tell me it's $3 million, I mean it's not value for the money. So there are some $200,000 properties that are value for the money, right? And then there's some that are not. There's some that are simply overpriced. Yeah.
Very surprisingly, a lot of African Americans are now running to Ghana for greener pastures, and most of them are diving into the real estate sector. You've been in there for 11 years. What do you think about the Ghana real estate market now, and where it's going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think now there is definitely an increase in terms of the demand for housing. I mean, we even have a housing deficit, as you know, of almost 2 million units, right? And I think that, first of all, you know, let's look at it in context because of the Beyond the Return initiative.
Yeah.
For a year of the return,
2019,
and then Beyond the Return, right? These next 10 years Beyond the Return has done an incredible job. You know, shout out to Annabelle and the whole GTA team. They've done an incredible job of highlighting the beauty of this nation, of just putting Ghana on the map, right? Of just putting a spotlight on Ghana. And that's what's causing a lot of visitors to come in and see the beauty of this nation. And because of the surge of visitors coming in, there's a demand for accommodation. So people are buying properties so they can rent it out. You know, Ghana has the highest annual rental yields in Africa. Not just West Africa, the entire African continent, right? So this is what positions Ghana.
Let's speak on the ROI on those subjects. Example, a studio apartment. Can we just pick an example?
So let's talk about a studio apartment in a prime area, right? Annual rental yield. So I'm talking about gross, right? The gross annual rental yields could go anywhere from 15 to 20%.
20%.
Yes, for prime area. If you're looking at maybe emerging markets, Oyarifa, East Legon Hills, that sort of thing, you can look at double digits still, anywhere from 10 to 15%. Now, rule of thumb, the annual rental yields should be at least 7%.
7%. That's most for South Africa.
At least 7%, yes. And look at where we are, well above that, right? And then if we're looking at appreciation, you know, conservatively speaking, you can look at 30% a year in appreciation value.
Interesting.
Meaning if I buy a home for 100,000 today, next year it could be 130,000.
So not only that you're getting a profit of 20%, you can now get almost 90%, 100% in 3 to 4 years of your property.
Absolutely.
And sell it for what, 2x?
Yes, I mean, I've seen investments where people have purchased properties, myself included. I'm a real estate investor as well. 3 years ago, today, we look at the property, it's quadrupled. You see, because it's a developing nation.
But it scares me too.
Don't be scared, it's a cash economy. We're paying cash, this is not credit.
Don't you think it's a bubble?
No.
Because I see...
You see, the bubble happened because of the credit economy. This is a cash-based economy.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
There's a difference. That's why there was a mortgage crash in the U.S. I was there at that time. The mortgage crash. We're not looking at a mortgage crash.
So
here. People even pay early.
So it makes sense for someone to still buy a property down here in Ghana.
Absolutely. And it's a developing nation. There's a housing deficit. It's not,
you said 2 million units.
Yes. There was an article that came out the other day from the Ministry of Works and Housing, and they said that 99% of Ghanaians need houses. You know, people need homes. A lot of people stay together in their family homes.
Why do you think a lot of developers are shying away from affordable homes? I don't know the metrics out there, but I don't see a lot of developers going into affordable homes.
Well, you know, you just
except
mentioned,
the government bodies that always do affordable homes.
Yeah, but you see, you just mentioned a developer that was doing affordable housing, and when they started doing affordable housing, it was as if it was, you know, too good to be true. People were skeptical. Some developers, you know, were discouraging people not to buy because, you know, there is this whole thing that affordable housing is not possible. that's the perception that it's not possible. So when people start it, there's a lot of resistance and pushback, and that's why people don't go into that area as well.
Speaking about the industries diasporans should venture into immediately after moving to Ghana, you've seen it. You are in the real estate. What else do you see for diasporans to venture into?
Yeah, I think real estate. I think also technology space is good. And also agriculture is good. I know it's capital intensive, so you want to maybe start off as a commodities broker or something like that. So those are some of the areas, and having a BPO service is good.
Yeah, and I'm surprised. I came to your office and I saw you have a BPO. I'm like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Because I only know BPO to be India. A lot of when you go to India, there would be an office in Canada or US, and their customer care is in India, and then that's where you hear the Hindi accents and everything. But how did you manage to do something similar in a country like Ghana where that's not really common?
Yeah. I'm all about changing the narrative. Real estate was one thing because you saw so many unprofessionals in the real estate market. So that's why we started Gareb to sanitize the market and raise up professionals in the market, right? So I'm really big on changing the narrative and seeing more women, hopefully, in real estate. So with the BPO center, the Business Process Outsourcing Center we have, the purpose of that was to change the narrative concerning outsourcing. Everyone knows that companies outsource to Asia, to Philippines, to India, to Malaysia. But why aren't we outsourcing to Ghana?
Why?
I mean, we are so positioned well.
We speak English?
Very well. We speak English very well. We're very articulate. People understand us when we speak. And then also in terms of the geographic location, the time zone. With the US, you're anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. UK, an hour, same time. Other European, up to 2 hours, the European countries, right? So we're positioned better.
Interesting.
But everybody has been targeting Asia. So we said, no, we're going to change this. And we're going to bring employment opportunities to the youth as well. So we hired people from, as national service personnel to come and join. It's called On Point Virtual Assistants. And so we provide legal services, real estate services. We have customer service support, call center support.
Wow.
We're currently working with some companies overseas, and they outsource their customer support and call center support to our BPO centers.
I like that. Now, for people who don't understand how this works, why would a company in America, Canada, outsource some of their work in terms of customer care or virtual assistants to a country like Ghana or India or Philippines?
Well, first of all, they want to be cost effective. The labor cost is much less. For example, if you hire a customer service rep in the US, you're going to pay at least a minimum of $22 an hour, right? If you outsource it to somewhere in Asia or to us in Ghana, it'll be anywhere from $8 to $15 an hour.
Which is cheaper.
So you see the tremendous savings there. And then also to have that 24/7 support. So we have the reps that work during the day and they work in the evenings as well. So we're 24/7.
I see.
Yeah.
Interesting. In Ghana, it's very unlikely to have a 24 hours kind of service.
Well, we work day and night.
That's good.
Yeah. And I think the hesitation, you asked that earlier, is that, we had poor internet service. I think that was the hesitation of outsourcing to Africa as a whole. But we have Starlink. So our internet is smooth sailing.
I like that. That's good. I think you're doing different things that is not so easy to find. I was in India. I'm a programmer.
Oh, wow.
And at one point in my life, I was a customer care agent. And it was a Canadian internet company called CIK Telecom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we were doing all their, troubleshooting and whatnot. And I've never seen anything like that in Ghana until, I came across. Let's detour a little bit.
Sure.
How do one watching right now spots a developer who have some kind of attitude that they should be skeptical about or not to trust? How do one get an eye for that?
Yeah, so I think you have to meet with the developer and you have to have conversations. And based on their responses, that will determine, whether this is a path you want to follow or not, right? And then, just as I mentioned, we have a developer checklist. They fill out their obligations and that sort of thing. If a developer is just pushing for you to pay without any documentation, no sales and purchase agreement, no sort of reservation form. I mean, there's no documentation at all. I mean, that should be a red flag. Whenever there's unnecessary pressure is a red flag. They should be able to provide you with all the documentation you need to do your search. Yeah.
Do you think Diasporans should just come down here, acquire the land and do everything by themselves? I mean, after the due diligence on the land is done, you have the land in your possession in terms of construction and doing it. But do you think you would advise Diasporans to do that more?
Yeah, come down and build. I mean, you can't be behind a desk somewhere in the States, giving instructions to build your home. No, because I've seen those horror stories too. You're behind the desk, you're working and you're calling and making calls and trying to build the home. By the time you get there, I mean, the door handle is on the wrong side. You open up the door to the restroom, the washroom, it hits the sink.
But in America, they only have like 2 weeks out of the year to go on a holiday.
Well, you might have to take a sabbatical. Take a year off and come and build your home and build it well. You see, people always ask, is it better to purchase off plan or to build your own home? And I say it depends on you and your time and your availability. If you don't have the time to oversee the building of your home, then you probably want to buy off plan and let the developer have a project manager, etc., on site to build for you.
Do you have some real estate developers that you would recommend?
No. No, because and the reason why I'm saying that.
Yeah.
Okay, but you go ahead and finish your sentence.
No, you recommend because there's been a lot of empty barrels that most people watching might have seen, and most of the time it looks glamorous on the looking from the outside. But you, 11 years experience working with these folks, you know the right ones that you can recommend, but whatnot. But just go ahead.
And the reason why I'm saying no, I'm not going to just recommend developers in terms of the name. What I can recommend are ongoing projects. And the reason why I say that is because we do our due diligence on that particular project. So let's say, for example, we're marketing project A. I can recommend it because we've done our due diligence surrounding it. Now, let's say it's the same developer, and I've recommended the developer, and they don't do a good job on project B.
I see.
Now you're going to come to me because I recommended the developer, right? And so
but not the project. You recommended the project, not the developer.
Yes. Because
after your due diligence.
After my due diligence. Because we've worked with developers, like this, a particular developer, not the ones we've mentioned, but there's a particular developer that we've worked with, which is a very established developer. They completed a particular project, we marketed it, it went well. Another project they did not go so well. After completion, I mean, I had a client send me a video when it rained, right? And their furniture was floating in the living room. Yes.
Waterlogged area?
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, it was a bad build.
Okay.
It was leaking so bad that the whole living room was flooded. So, but I worked on another project. It went very well.
And that's why you say the escrow, one of the duties is the lawyer would go on site to check to see if things are going the way it's supposed to?
Not the lawyer, inspector. So what we do is we have implemented a building inspector as part of the process. Okay, it's building inspectors of Ghana, and so at every phase we would send an inspector out. So foundation, the inspector checks it, makes sure it's according to building code, and then funds are dispersed. Then lintel level, window level, we check. Funds are dispersed. Roofing level, check, funds dispersed, and then finally the interior. So that's why we've started implementing inspectors, because you see, we are marketing the property, and now we are representing the project.
Exactly.
And we've been doing this for so many years. And there are situations where we've put our company out there, we're marketing the product, it's checked all the bases, and then all of a sudden something goes wrong along the way.
How durable is this safeguard that you've mentioned? How durable is it?
Durable, and how long do I think it's going to be around?
Yeah, I mean, the success, because look, let's be honest. No developer, most developer wouldn't like their money to be sitting in an escrow account.
Well, it depends, because we've used it. We've used the
And it
escrow
worked,
account
yes.
with
But ratio
developers,
wise, percentage wise, how many developers? I mean, speak to me on that. It's just a question.
Yeah. So, we have had a handful of developers because we just introduced it last year. It's only been around for a year. So we've had a handful of developers that are okay with that. A lot of times off-plan projects, they're okay with it because they're just trying to, sell at the beginning phases. But if they're further along, I mean, they may not want the funds sitting in the escrow account. But I think that, with the new real estate agency council, it's part of the requirements to have an escrow account. It sure is. And, they're implementing that now. They're very strict with the policies there. So it'll come a time where they'll have no choice
but to
comply.
Interesting. We've spoken about Accra and how it's no brainer if you want your ROIs quickly.
Yeah.
Accra, East Legon, Cantonment, these are places. Do you see the next frontier? Where is that? Let's give that as a gift to see the people watching. The next location. It used to be East Legon. Now it's East Legon Hills. It went, a little bit,
You mean the next location outside of Accra?
Yeah. Or even within Accra if you want.
Let me go outside of Accra.
Yeah.
Cape Coast.
Cape Coast.
Cape Coast. Yes.
What makes you say that?
Cape Coast is the next location. You see, let me just give you an example. Like Cape Coast is the second most visited location in Ghana.
For
tourists.
Interesting.
Second.
Interesting.
The first is the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park, then Cape Coast. So let's look at the numbers, right? So I think it's December 2022. The 31 days, there was 1.2 million visitors
to Cape Coast. Oh, to Ghana, yeah.
Came to Ghana. And the visitors, the number 2 most visited location is Cape Coast. So you have at least 90% of them actually coming to Cape Coast, right?
Interesting.
And so out of these 1.2 million visitors, 41%, that's almost half, said that they would rather be in a furnished apartment, like an Airbnb type situation, instead of the motel, traditional hotel type situation.
Interesting.
So if most of these visitors, see, you need to be on my consultancy for investment advisory services to get all these juicy information.
No, because this valuable information. Now you can just literally find the right, folks to speak to acquire property. Now, because I know there's a guy, the owners of Jamestown.
Yes, I know them.
They have a new property, new projects there.
We have a project there.
Really?
In Cape Coast.
Interesting.
We sure
Let's
do.
speak on that. This is a gift. Thank me later. So Cape Coast.
Yes.
Interesting.
So 41% of people prefer to be in a furnished apartment, right? So if you do 41% of, let's even say, 1 million, right? That's 410,000 people. Where are they going to stay when they go to Cape Coast? And the hotels are always operating at least 95% capacity. And you find that a lot of times you have to do day trips to Cape Coast.
That's very true.
Because where are you going to
I
stay?
was struggling the last time I was there in December to get a place to sleep.
Yes.
I had to call like 3 hotels before I had a place to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's obviously the demand.
The demand
and you
is
already
there.
said there's a deficit for almost 2 million units.
It is.
Interesting. I wouldn't have never expected.
But this is a great investment to have some sort of.
And the lands are cheaper now there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like,
Listen,
everybody's like, woo! Cha-ching this.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you know who to contact. But yeah, this is very interesting. I never really thought about real estate the way I'm thinking about it now and how much money you can actually, the profit that will come. And Ghana has proven itself to be that country in Africa that is always, the momentum is, it keep building, the numbers keeps increasing. So the demand is there.
It definitely is. I mean, we're going to launch our Cape Coast project next year. So
Tell me about
any
it.
investors who are interested in partnering with us, this is
What
a
kind of
great
property is it?
opportunity. So it's 24 beachfront villas
Mm-hmm.
and then 24 condos, apartments. And then one commercial hub. And the beautiful thing about the commercial hub is you'll have a gallery in there where we will showcase a lot of the local talent, you know, the painting, pottery, and
Interesting.
that sort of thing. So monthly, we will be able to showcase them. And then there are
I see.
retail stores. There's a swimming pool and, you know,
And this Ewells property.
Ewells Homes.
Homes, right?
So we have Ewells Realty, which is the marketing brokerage piece, and then Ewells Homes, which
I
is the
see. So
development.
now you're into developing now.
Yes, we have our
That's
first
incredible.
project in Adenta Manfro.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we have 2 units left. Beautiful 3-bedroom townhomes
In Adenta.
in Adenta Manfro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And let's speak about how many developments you've done in Ghana throughout this year. It's 11 years now. How many
Yeah.
properties? Don't tell me all. Just give me an idea on how many you've developed so far by
Or
yourself.
sold, you mean?
Oh, we
Yeah.
speak about it sold in a minute.
Okay.
But in terms of the development
So the
part.
development we just started this year, actually.
okay.
So the development, the first one is Adenta Manfro, which is 4 townhouses, right? It's beautiful 3-bedroom townhouses, and because it's our first project, we're actually partnering with Boma Properties. So they
Okay,
are our
okay.
construction company on the ground. So Boma Properties, that's with Kofi Anku and Stefan Correct. Yes.
That's good.
So-
And these are reputable people.
Absolutely, because you know, going in, you want to make sure you partner with reputable
people.
people who have the experience, right, and expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I said is that I want green.
Mm.
I want greenery. You know, you go into a lot
Nature.
of these and you don't see nature. So you got beautiful garden space. Even in the front, there's a signature garden. I mean, it's a lot of greenery. So you really feel like you're
How many
almost
bedrooms
in a
again?
resort. It's a 4
4-bedroom
bedroom.
now. Okay, okay.
It's 4-bedroom. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You're working. I mean, behind the scenes, I know what you've been doing. I don't know how much you're willing to share. But I mean, speaking about selling of properties, you've
Yeah.
been selling a lot of properties.
By God's grace, yeah,
Yeah.
God is good.
All
the time.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing the progress you've been able to
Yeah.
make as Ewells?
How many properties
Realty?
we've sold?
Give me an idea.
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
I would, okay, so I would say on a very good year, we could do $10 million in sales in a very good year.
Interesting.
Yeah, but we've sold a lot of properties, you know, and we do rentals as well.
Units?
Yeah, we do
Okay.
rentals, we do commercial, we do residential, and we do land as
Okay.
well.
You do sell
Yeah.
lands?
Yeah, we do
Where?
sell
Locations?
lands. So we partner with companies to sell land. So one of them we've been working with for years is CBC Properties. They do lands.
Okay.
So we partner with them. You know, I'm a big believer in collaborative efforts and partnerships. So we have a lot of partnerships. We have Diaspora Africa Forum. We're the exclusive real estate brokers for DAF. You know, it's the only diplomatic embassy in the world
Interesting.
that advocates
Yeah.
for the diaspora. It's
What
fantastic.
do you think the GIPC is doing to help the
I have
diaspora
no
business?
idea.
No. I mean, what do you think they could have done, or what do you think they're doing that should be probably they should work on it more, because they are the government body that helps entrepreneurs and business owners trying
Yeah.
to dive into the market, right?
Yeah.
Let's just speak on it a little bit.
Yeah. So, you know, one thing I would say is, you know, Marina is over the diaspora desk, and she does an incredible job with showcasing the opportunities for those in the diaspora. You know, you have to go to the right channel, and she is over the diaspora desk. And so every opportunity that is available for the diasporans and how to help you transition your business into the Ghanaian market, you know, depending on whatever industry sector you're going into, that's who you get in touch with, and they do a great job at doing that. Yeah, and at promoting the opportunity. So if you go there and you want to find out what are some of the great opportunities for, you know, an entrepreneur that's coming into agriculture or into textiles or whatever it is, that's where you'll get the help you need. Yeah, you got to go to the right places.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. I've met people who came with a lot of money. You know, I have a good friend of mine. I mean, he's publicly said it, so now I can say it.
Yeah.
He came with almost $700,000, and he lost almost everything.
Well, you know, when people say they came with a lot of money and they lost a lot of money, I always want to ask, them to tell me their story. What was their process? What happened?
Litigation, land.
Okay, so what did he do in his due diligence process? You see,
It was a title land.
that's the mistake right there.
Tell me why it's a
That
mistake.
a lot of people always say, oh, the land was titled. First of all, if somebody gives you a title certificate and you take that title certificate and you run the search with the site plan at Lands Commission, it very well may come up in that person's name, right?
But that's not.
But that's not what you do. You actually have to get a surveyor, go to the land, let the surveyor pick the points, get the coordinates, create a site plan, and then run a search based on that new site plan. And that will give you the information for the validity of the owner. People don't do that because you don't want to pay the surveyor. You don't want to pay to go through the Lands Commission process, and you don't want to wait 2-3 weeks for the process, right? Because I have heard, I'll give you 2 horror stories.
Okay.
One person got the site plan from the seller, run the search, they thought everything was okay. They went, they paid for it and everything. Guess what? Shortly afterwards, they found out they bought a road. Now, what can you do with a road?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Bought a road, money gone. Somebody else, the same thing. They just took the site plan to run the search. They bought a forest. You try talking to the Ministry of Forestry to give you that piece of land.
That won't happen.
Because you did not get a surveyor to go out there and pick the points. These are true cases. This is not made up.
So you can buy a titled land, but the coordinates is not where the land is supposed to be.
Exactly.
Interesting.
That's one thing. Now, just because they have the title certificate, have you gone to check to see if there are any litigations on the land?
That's from the court.
The High Court. You go there. People don't do that. And then you buy a land that has litigation on it, right? Another simple way to make sure there's no litigation on the land is to take some sand or, building material and put it on the land. If there's litigation, you best believe people are going to come running out, trying to figure out what you're trying to build on their land.
So that's you should do
That's
that.
a simple way. Yes, you should definitely do that.
Interesting.
You should definitely do that.
I think a good friend of mine, Rasha Sari, said you need to take possession of the land. And that's by putting sand on it, building a wall or at least a foundation.
Yes.
Then you
yes.
can get to know, okay, who is it actually in court? Who is the owner? Is there any other owners and whatnot? Do you think it's a good actionable plan?
But before that, do the
Of course.
the coordinates and then go and check
The site
for
plan.
litigation. People skip that part about litigation, and then the zoning. People don't even think to go and check and see, because this is another. Can I give you another
Yeah, please
another
do.
story?
Please
right?
do. Because there's plenty of stories
Oh,
like
so
that.
many.
People
We'll be
think it's
here for
all
weeks.
sunshine and rainbow, but there's horror stories, things happening.
Because you're not following the right process. There is a right process to buy property in Ghana. There is. Don't take shortcuts. Don't bypass step 1 to get to step 5. Take all the necessary steps. So someone had bought property, built a beautiful home there. A few years down the road, somebody came and built like a pig farm across the street. Can you imagine the stench
smell
of a pig farm, right? So they went to report it. And the people who bought the farm were like, no, we are entitled to be here because
It's
this
a
is
farmland.
zoned commercial. And so now you didn't bother to check whether it is zoned commercial or zoned residential. So
So
if
the
there
city
is,
planning works?
it's there. You see, if you go to the court of law, they're going to go according to the law. How is it zoned? So you can't say, well, I didn't think they enforce zoning, whether it's commercial or residential. No. In the court of law, they're going to look and say, well, he has every right to have his pig farm. You might want to move and try and sell that
Or
property.
turn your house into a pig farm?
Be the off-taker and start making sausages and stuff. I mean, hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Interesting. I've had few diasporans who were willing to. They wanted free land, and I think the chiefs I don't know the truth of this matter.
Yeah, in a Cebu.
In Asable, and there was a whole conspiracy, and this is behind camera. Someone was like, "You're willing to invest $100,000 into building this property, and you're not willing to go buy the property up front with cash and want to take a gift. and rather it's not a guarantee kind of gift. They give you this land, they might just give you somewhere else and say, oh, someone else bought it. Why go through that whilst you can just set aside small amount and get a land that would belong to you, like yourself? What do you have to say to that?
One thing I want to find out is, what is your definition of free? Because there's definitely a price to pay. And even if somebody's telling me that I'm giving you this land for free, I would still pay the money to do my due diligence on that land, right? So I don't know that was done. I don't know. And then, in terms of it being free, you've got to also find out what is the source of that land. Like, and apparently there were farmers on that land who I don't know the story, but, allegedly they weren't compensated, accordingly for those lands. So, you want to look at everything in context and make sure that all the bases are covered before you accept that gift.
Give an advice to anyone interested in investing in properties here in Ghana.
Number one, get in touch with a professional. And I've said this over and over again. You should have at least 4 professionals as part of your real estate team. You need a real estate broker because we are experienced. We know the market. You need a valuer or an appraiser, right? Number 2,
to check the value of the property.
Check the value of the property.
Legitimate value.
Everybody thinks their home is $1 million.
It's an art.
Yes. So you want to make sure you're getting value for your money. And then you need a building inspector. If you're going to buy that house, even if it was just built yesterday, get a building inspector. And then last but certainly not least, use a lawyer, use a legal entity, use our escrow service.
And you forgot the land card. But I'm enjoying this conversation because I'm learning a lot.
Great.
I'm learning a lot, and I know the numbers are going to increase for the number of diasporans relocating here and making Ghana their home permanently. What did you do to prepare yourself to embark on a journey to Ghana? Because you've not really left. You've been here 11 years straight out and focused on your business. You came with a lot of money?
No.
How much money did you come to Ghana with?
I didn't come with a lot of money. I probably came with like cash in hand, probably like $2,000.
Really?
Yeah, that was it. Cash in hand.
Yeah.
That's what I came with.
Interesting.
Yes.
In 11 years, you're still standing strong.
By God's grace.
Interesting.
Because you see, one of the things I'll say is that, if you're, and I got this advice from my spiritual father. He said that, when you're building, stay and build. Stay and build. And you find with diasporans, there's always that safety net. Oh, let me just go
2
back
years
for
after, let me just
a couple of years. Well, not even years. Some of them a couple of months. Let me go back, and then you come back, and then you end up losing your focus. Going back, coming back, you really lose your focus.
The enthusiasm.
And yes, and it also kind of stops the momentum, right?
True.
And so when he said to me, "Stay and build," I stayed for years. I never went anywhere. I think I didn't travel for the first 5 years.
Wow.
Because I stayed to build. And then now, I travel all the time, but I didn't, because you got to be focused. You got to be determined. You got to keep the momentum going, and you stay and you build, and you build well.
And being a woman in this industry.
Oh, Lord.
How's it like being a woman? And
Well, I'm a woman in ministry, which is male dominated in Ghana. I'm a woman in real estate, which is male dominated. Male dominated in Ghana. So, what I say to women is know your stuff, right? If you are investing in yourself, and if you're knowledgeable, you're experienced, you've got expertise, and you add value, right? Add value to any real estate transaction. The men will even come and ask you questions. The men will even come and ask for your help, right? But you have got to know your stuff. And you have almost, I don't want to say you have to prove yourself, but you have got to show that I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm talking about. And I always encourage people to invest in themselves. no matter what, I will still on weekends read about real estate. I will still try and get more information. I'm always studying real estate because you have never really reached the pinnacle of knowledge. We're always learning.
Yeah.
So learn as much as you possibly can so that people see the value in you, and then they will place a demand on that gift.
Is it possible for young women here in Ghana who grew up in the system to take on real estate and be successful?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mentor women all the time. And you see, again, it takes a lot to be the best in your field. It takes discipline. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes consistency. And if you're willing to do all that, you'll be fine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have some success story of some people you've mentored before and after the mentorship? Did their life change? What were some of the success stories you have to share?
Oh, yes. Okay, so one of the things I love telling like my staff is that, you are helping people buy. You are helping people sell their properties, rent out their properties, but don't let your story end there. You never want to say, oh, I rented that out. Oh, I helped that person buy that. That's beautiful, but your story shouldn't end there. It should be, I helped that individual sell. I helped that individual become a homeowner. Now today, I'm a homeowner. Today, I'm renting out. You know what I mean? There should be that progression. And so I'm very happy to say that a lot of our staff own properties. So to me, that is huge, because one of the things I'm passionate about is building generational wealth through real estate, one house at a time.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Is it easy to build generational wealth in Ghana?
Absolutely.
It's
You see,
achievable.
yes, and generational wealth is not just property, right? You're leaving a legacy. That could be a legacy of knowledge. That could be a legacy of a gift. That could be any type of legacy that's passed on from generation to generation. So if you've installed good integrity in the life of your child, and that child passes on good integrity or good discipline, that's a legacy you've left, right? That's wealth, because that will definitely attract the monetary value, is good character.
I like that.
Thank you.
How did you become a pastor?
Well, you want the real
Yeah, give me the
spiritual
real
story? All right, so I remember years ago, I was in my living room. I just finished worshiping, and I fell asleep. Actually, was on the carpet. I was just worshiping and fell asleep, and suddenly there was like a bright light that filtered through the room and woke me up. So I was like, whoa, is it morning already? So I look out the window and it's pitch black. And so I turn and I see a bright light. And I actually had an encounter where Jesus actually visited me, and he said, I have called you. And so that was my first encounter.
Interesting.
And the Bible does say, if there's a prophet amongst you, I will visit them in either a dream or a vision.
Interesting.
So that was my call.
Interesting. Because when I remember, I think the first time we met, and you said I'm a pastor, so I'm like, huh? And you have your own church in Ghana.
I do.
How's it like? You mentioned briefly that it's not even easy. It's male dominated.
Yeah.
How's it like being a woman pastor in this hemisphere where people expect men to be pastors?
Yeah. So you don't really get the respect for women pastors, and when they see you and you're the pastor, they're like, oh, how? Or you don't look like a pastor. I don't know what pastors look like, but and so one of the things is that if you look at the society, you'll find that there are not a lot of women who are in the forefront of ministry in Ghana with large churches or who are very well known. If you look at the States, you look at Priscilla Shirer, Joyce Myers, you look at, before Juanita Bynum, they could fill out stadiums. Have you seen a woman in ministry in Ghana fill out a stadium?
There used to be a woman, though. I don't know her name, but yeah, there used to be one woman.
You've forgotten her name.
Agrada.
See, there we have it. If I said name some men, you would be naming the list, right?
Yeah.
And then you go to the women churches and you don't see a lot of men. It's mostly women in those churches. I think there's that mindset that the men don't submit to the word from,
So the fact that it's coming
vessel.
from a woman. Interesting. I've learned so much about you, and I think the audience have done. They have this, learned the same too.
Thank you.
If you do have any kind of final message or something you wish we spoke about that I didn't, what would that be?
Well, what I want to say to people is stop cutting corners. Stop avoiding legitimate fees, like the upfront fee to safeguard your real estate investment. And that's why people swerve using lawyers and things like that. It just boils down to they don't want to spend that money. And I'm telling you, it is value for your money. It is worth spending that money to ensure that you are purchasing a property that you can actually possess. So do your due diligence, and let's come together and build generational wealth in Ghana through real estate, one house at a time.
If someone told you 15 years ago that Ghana would be a place where Americans would run to for greener pastures, will you have believed it?
15 years ago, probably not. I've been here 11 years. I didn't even know I was coming here. So, I don't think so, because the narrative was so negative, not just to Ghana, but the African continent, and it's certain voices of Africa that will highlight the good things, but prior to now, there was a lot of negative media. Surrounding it. So that was what prevented people. But now that a lot of people are venturing and they're like, wow, this place is incredible, and they feel like they're finally home, that's why we're seeing that surge of people coming in.
A gentleman said that 80% of African Americans cannot afford to move to Ghana. Is there any truth in this statement?
Well, when you say cannot afford, I would say that anybody who comes to Ghana with a sustainable plan can afford it. The problem is moving on emotion and not planning well. Okay?
What do you mean by that?
So you've got to plan well. When you're coming to Ghana, what are you coming to do? What is your source of income? And let me use this. What is your daily bread? Because we're in a cash-based economy, right? And how are you going to be getting cash flow? What is your plan?
Interesting.
And if you think you're coming here to get a job, there are millions of people who are unemployed, right? And even if you do get your job, remember that the average salary is anywhere from 1,400 to 2,000 Ghana cedis. So you have to come with a sustainable plan. And what I tell people is you also need multiple streams of income. And make sure at least one stream is Forex earnings.
Forex, okay, meaning foreign currencies.
Foreign currency.
Interesting.
Yes, because foreign currency will always help you in Ghana. And you see, real estate is a dollar-backed investment, so it's a hedge against inflation.
Why is it like a lot of diasporans come and then they fail and go back? Because there are more stories like that than success stories.
Yeah, because they don't plan. And again, you just come.
What
on
about
emotion.
a mindset?
Well, first of all, there's that. And then second of all, you're coming in with this mindset of I'm running away, I'm leaving this, and I'm coming to this. So there is a higher expectation for this sort of euphoria living, right? And what I say is, don't run from something to come to Ghana. You're running away from racism. You're running away from the new government. You're running away from this. You're running away from that. Don't do that. Come here with a purpose. What is your purpose? And be intentional about it. What are you coming here to do? If you're running away from something, you always be running away.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree. What do you like so much about Ghana?
It's a lot of things. One thing about Ghana is that there are a lot of opportunities. And I had to be careful with that because when I first came, you see so many opportunities.
You get excited.
Yes. And if you're not careful, you stretch yourself then, right? But the fact that if I come in here and I see this opportunity and I can do something about this opportunity to make an impact in the lives of people and in that community, and I've brought a change and a tangible and noticeable change, that's what I love. But when you're in a developed country, even if you bring a change, it may be a small change of influence, but here you have the opportunity to really make a big difference.
Do you feel like you're making more impact being here in Ghana than you were in your previous countries that you were?
I do. And because this is where I'm supposed to be, I am more fulfilled. And I know, one thing I'll say is not everybody is able to discover their purpose in their lifetime. But once you are able to discover that original intent for which God created you and placed you in the earth realm, and you are walking in that path, and there is that purpose fulfillment, there comes that peace, there comes the sense of accomplishment and fulfillment. And so I am where I'm supposed to be.
I like that. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you for having me.
How do people find you?
Well, on Instagram at Hanna Tiase or at Ewells Realty. Our website, ewellsconsult.com. And anybody who wants investment advisory help, you can just book with Hanna. So book hanna.com.
If you have something to tell the diasporan to leave behind when they're coming to Ghana, what would that be?
If you've never been to Ghana before, leave other people's perception of Ghana and get to know of Ghana for yourself. Come in with an open mind, and be ready to receive what this nation has to give. And don't try and change, certain things about the nation, right? That because you want it to be more like the US or I want it to be more like the UK. But you can come in here and make changes that fall with the natural,
way of life of the people.
Exactly. There you go. Exactly.
I like that. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, if you did enjoy this conversation, please drop a like. Comment down below. Let's get the engagement going. Share to friends and family. Because listen, this is valuable knowledge and lessons. This can save you $1 million, depending on how much you're willing to invest. This can save you a lot of money. So share to friends and family so they can benefit too. And go check her out on her social medias. Contact her for consultation. You might save yourself some money. You might save yourself from getting scammed. And so without further ado, let's just say bye-bye to the people watching. All right? Peace.